Most gardeners waste spring trying to coax plants along with store-bought fertilizers and generic compost teas that barely do anything. Here's the harsh truth. If you're relying on chemical blends or pre-packaged teas, you're limiting growth, stressing plants, and slowing your harvest. I've been there, watching seedlings struggle, leafy greens barely expanding, and tomatoes taking forever to hit fruiting size. That all changed when I started using a simple biological weed tea. This is not a gimmick. It's a way to supercharge growth in your garden, raised beds, or even hydroponic systems, and I'll show you exactly how to do it. And before we go further, subscribe to the channel. You'll want every tip like this if you're serious about growing massive, healthy crops this spring. Stop thinking weeds are useless. They're actually your fastest growing fertilizer source. Here's what most gardeners miss. Weeds accumulate nutrients and beneficial microbes at rates cultivated plants rarely match. Dandelions, nettles, chickweed. All these common weeds are packed with nitrogen, potassium, and trace minerals. When used properly, they can create a liquid biofertilizer that plants absorb immediately, boosting growth rates in ways synthetic fertilizers simply cannot. Ignoring this resource means you're literally leaving free growth power on your lawn or garden patch. I've tried traditional compost teas and store-bought fertilizers side by side with weed tea, and consistently, the weed-based solution produces 2 to 3 times faster leaf expansion and root development in early spring. Here's how to make a strong biological weed tea that actually works. Start by collecting young, healthy weeds. Avoid anything flowering or seeding heavily because nutrient concentration drops as the plant matures. For small backyard gardens, a 2-gallon bucket is sufficient. For larger, raised beds or hydroponic systems, scale up proportionally. 10 to 20 pounds of weeds per 20 gallons of water works well. Chop the weeds into small pieces to increase surface area. Then fill the bucket about 3/4 full with water. I prefer rainwater or dechlorinated tap water because chlorine can kill the beneficial microbes you're trying to cultivate. Add a small handful of brown sugar or molasses, just enough to feed microbes and kickstart fermentation. Cover the bucket loosely, stir daily, and let it ferment for 3 to 5 days. You'll notice a light fizz and a strong, earthy smell. That's a sign your microbial community is active and ready. Why the timing of application is critical. Spring is when plants are emerging from dormancy and root systems are establishing. Applying weed tea too early before the soil warms can wash nutrients away or introduce microbes that aren't active yet. I wait until soil temperatures are consistently above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which you can measure accurately with a quality compost thermometer. I use the Reotemp 36-inch Backyard Pro compost thermometer with digital composting guide. It's long enough to reach the center of raised beds and large soil mounds, giving an exact reading so you know when the soil is ready. The link is in the description if you want to make sure your garden is primed for maximum absorption. So let's talk about how to apply weed tea in backyard gardens and raised beds. Once the tea is ready, you'll want to dilute it just a bit. About 1 part tea to 3 parts water works well. For small backyard gardens, I usually grab a watering can and apply the mix evenly right at the base of each plant. In raised beds, you might find it handy to use a garden hose with a fine spray attachment, or even just a bucket to really soak the soil. It's best to avoid applying during the hottest part of the day. Early morning or late afternoon is ideal. This way, the microbes and nutrients have a chance to settle into the soil without evaporating or stressing your plants. I've tried this on tomatoes, peppers, and lettuce, and honestly, I consistently see leaf growth pick up within 48 hours, with roots expanding quickly over the next week. Now, weed tea in hydroponic systems is a bit different, since there's no soil for those microbes to anchor to. What I do is strain the tea to get rid of any plant debris, then add it straight to the nutrient solution, but at a dilution of 1 to 5. This feeds the microbial community in the water and brings in organic nutrients that plants seem to absorb really quickly. From what I've seen, hydroponic leafy greens respond with faster leaf production and sturdier stems compared to just using standard nutrient mixes. But here's the thing. Moderation is key. If it's too concentrated, you might overload the system and upset the microbial balance. So, start small, watch how your plants react, and scale up carefully. Preventing common problems with weed tea is, honestly, pretty straightforward. The most frequent issue gardeners encounter is overfermentation or contamination. If the tea smells rotten rather than earthy, well, it's overfermented and should be diluted heavily or just discarded. Mold on the surface is normal in small amounts, but if you see large amounts, that usually means poor aeration. I always stir daily and cover loosely to allow oxygen flow, which keeps those aerobic microbes active and beneficial. Another common mistake is applying weed tea to drought-stressed plants. They need water first, then nutrients. Applying tea to dry roots can actually shock them. Always pre-water lightly if the soil is dry. So, how do you maximize the benefits of this hack? For serious gardeners, consistency really matters. I apply weed tea once a week during the first 6 weeks of spring growth. If you combine this with regular monitoring of soil temperature and compost activity, using a tool like the Reotemp compost thermometer, you make sure the environment is optimal for nutrient uptake. Pairing weed tea with standard compost or soil amendments, like worm castings, gives a layered boost. You get microbes from the tea, nutrients from compost, and an ideal soil structure. Over several seasons, you'll notice stronger stems, faster leaf expansion, and earlier fruiting across a wide variety of crops. Now, why does this beat chemical fertilizers and commercial teas? Synthetic fertilizers do provide nutrients, but they just don't have the living microbes and those synergistic compounds you find in weeds. Commercial compost teas are often weak, heavily diluted or sterilized, which means they offer little more than water with trace nutrients. Weed tea, on the other hand, is alive. It introduces nitrogen, potassium, trace minerals, and microbial populations all at once, giving your plants both the fuel and the ability to process it efficiently. In my tests, crops grown with weed tea consistently outperform those fed chemical fertilizers alone, especially in early spring, when natural soil microbial activity is still ramping up. This method is sustainable, low-cost, and adaptable. It costs virtually nothing and uses weeds that most gardeners pull out anyway. By turning them into a liquid fertilizer, you reduce garden waste and create a living nutrient source. It's scalable from a small urban garden to larger raised beds and even hydroponic setups. Plus, it builds long-term soil health, which chemical fertilizers just can't do. If you're serious about growing bigger, stronger, and healthier crops while improving soil biology, this is honestly one of the most impactful techniques you can implement. Bringing it all together, the biological weed tea hack isn't a gimmick. It's a powerful, low-cost, and practical tool that accelerates growth, improves root development, and boosts plant resilience in spring. Whether you're working in backyard gardens, raised beds, or hydroponic systems, using weeds as a nutrient source can triple growth rates compared to conventional fertilizers and teas. Combining it with precise soil monitoring using tools like the Reotemp 36-inch Backyard Pro Compost Thermometer ensures your plants get the ideal environment to thrive. The link to the thermometer is in the description. If you found this technique useful, subscribe to the channel for more hands-on, results-focused gardening methods. Share this video with fellow gardeners who want faster growth and healthier crops this spring. Gardening is about results, not guesswork, and using weed tea is one of the most practical, high-impact ways to achieve them. At the end of the day, don't throw weeds away. Turn them into growth. Feed your soil, feed your plants, and just watch your spring garden flourish faster than you thought possible.